So that's a geopolitical given. Then there are another 10 million strong Tamil diaspora. Not all of them are pro-separatists, but the ones who are not politically active. And we haven't done anything which will make them politically active against the Tamil Islamist network. The Tamil diaspora also counts for something. So whether you're in Washington or eventually Moscow or Beijing, that figure of 80 million means a certain geostrategic weight. So the West, because of a number of reasons, has taken the stance that, look, we hope we can stop this war. They tried to stop the war in March 2009. From February they tried, they couldn't. So they couldn't do that on behalf of their Tamil constituents in their societies. Now they're saying, okay, the war was finished, Prabhakaran, not a nice guy, he's dead, that's probably a good thing, but we are not going to allow that Sinhalese government to treat the Tamils in the way they think that they can. We can't get away with it. So they're trying to, in their eyes, right the balance. And the Tamil networks have chosen to push on accountability rather than on devolution. Our strategy, which won in 2009, was to trade off devolution for accountability. So you push back accountability by pledging to move on the 13th Amendment and thereby getting the Indians on your side. If you get the Indians, you get most of the third world. Now, we broke that strategy by deciding, look, this 13th Amendment, we don't think so. So then we lost the Indians and we started losing others in our vote base. So the Americans are trying to, and the West is trying to right that balance by saying, okay, we allowed you to finish off the tigers, but you have to move on this issue of accountability. A lot of Tamil people died. It matters in our societies, not only among the Tamils in those societies, but but civil society, the human rights lobbies, the media. It matters. So you've got to do something. Nisha Biswal left a narrow window open. She said that the world would like a Sri Lankan-led independent process on accountability, but that it would have to be initiated before March. So there is still a window
of less than 2 months.
We can make it go away, Nadeem. We can make it go away. We can take those words.
Do you think that if we were to use this window, as you call it, just under 2 months to actually set up a process of independent inquiry, independent domestic inquiry, and begin implementing the 13th Amendment, do you think we can stave off a resolution in Geneva?
Well, it depends on whether it's saleable internationally. I mean, I used to be very proud to see Dilma tea in the supermarket I used to patronize in Paris, which was, in an exclusive residential area. It was also in the university club that I was a member of when I was in Brisbane, Australia. Now, that's local, and it's pure Ceylon, but it's packaged in a way that it can be on any supermarket in any first world capital, right? So, a domestic accountability process must be headed up by individuals who have an unimpeachable international reputation. I have named two: Justice Veeramantri, C.G. Veeramantri, Sir Desmond De Silva QC. I can name others because Sri Lanka has been famous for jurists, for lawyers. So these are well-known people. There's Professor Suri Ratnapala of the University of Queensland. He served in government here under an SLFP administration. Under Felix Das Bananayake, Suri Ratnapala was a young guy in the Aegis department. He's now a professor of law in Queensland. I mean, we have the people. So, provided we name people with an international reputation, then even if the Americans say, hey, we're not really sure, we can sell it to the world and we can make this go away, but that has to happen before March. That window is still open. The Americans are giving us that opportunity because they probably are hoping that we won't do it, so then, it's very obvious to the rest of the world that we were given the chance to have a Sri Lankan-led, that's the term, a Sri Lanka-led independent process, but that we didn't do that, and therefore there is no choice but to have an interventionist or intrusive, invasive process of an international inquiry. Unless you can show that a domestic inquiry will be independent, which means you can't say, look, our army is checking out whether our army did anything wrong. Unless you can show that domestic and independent are not contradictory. Unless you can put people who the whole world knows, hey, you can't buy this guy off. I mean, how can you buy C.G. Veeramantri off or Desmond De Silva? You can't intimidate them. So, the Sri Lankans have put their best foot forward. There are textbooks by C.G. Veeramantri in every university library in the world under law. I've seen them, including a multi-volume work on human rights. You do that, you're home and dry. But only a few weeks more. Once that window closes, then they'll go international.
Yeah, even after this window closes, now this Commission of Inquiry, the request for a Commission of Inquiry is not something new, and Justice Veeramantri's name has been touted before.
Yep.
I believe Desmond De Silva QC, that was the first time, former international crime prosecutor.
That's right. That's right. London-based, yeah.
Yeah. Why is the government so fearful of taking such stand-up individuals and forming a Commission of Inquiry?
Well, I don't know whether it's fear or whether it's misplaced arrogance. The sense seems to be that we can ignore all this without paying a price to anyone. The LLRC was very smart and very clear. It said, look, there's some surgery you have to do unless you want to be decapitated. That was what the LLRC was really saying. That's the subtext. If you want to protect the integrity of the armed forces as a whole, especially the officer corps, but not only, and the verdict of history concerning the nature of the war itself, we have to clean up our own act, which means you have to have a limited surgical excision of the bad guys who seem to have done some very nasty things. A few. If you do not do that, there's nothing that can save you from an international inquiry, which will be unfair, it will be a lynch mob, and you better do this. And the LLRC said this in 2011. It takes, a couple of hours to do it. It's been 3 years, and it's not been done.
I mean, the former army commander was chucked in prison in a pretty short time frame.
Yeah.
So suppose if you can, if you do have the capability of taking action like that,
but you have to have the clarity. You have to know that there's no way we are going to get out of this without paying some price. There are animals who eat their own paw when they're caught in a trap because they need to get out of it. We need to give something to somebody. There is no such thing as a free lunch. But the people who make decisions haven't arrived at a consensus on the implementation of the LLRC. That's what has happened.
We're talking about paying the price. But you're talking about we can't go on like this without paying a price for it. This is something that a lot of people have asked as well. It's in opinion sections of the newspapers. What exactly is this price that we're going to have to pay? Will it be sanctions, or will it be, as we are hearing on the political stage, the electric chair or Viduli Putuva? Is that the kind of price that we're going to have to pay if this resolution is adopted in March?
Well, I don't think sanctions are going to be any part of the resolution in March, and Nisha Biswal has made that clear. But it's a road that leads to sanctions. Because the way this works, Nadeem, is in March, if they get a resolution through which calls for an independent inquiry, then there's the fast track and there's the not so fast track. The fast track is that instead of waiting for that commission of inquiry to conclude, some parliamentarians in some parts of the world push on the basis of Madam Navi Pillai's written report, which will be presented this time. Because there's already Darusman and there would be Navi Pillai's written report. Now, in some places, they might be able to get a vote for an economic squeeze. That's the fast track. But my sense is that it will be on the slower, more deliberate track. And that's not very far away. That could be before the end of this year or sometime early next year.